Welcome back everybody to episode 2 of the flybywire A380X tutorial series, covering taxi, takeoff, climb through to cruise. So very warm welcome back to all of you. If you've not already checked out episode 1 and you're not sure how to get everything configured prior to startup, go back, check it out. And if you're new to the channel, as always, it's great to have you on board. So I hope you enjoy the videos and enjoying the tutorial series so far. Lots of things like this to go and check out on the channel, so definitely go check out all of our playlists. Hit like, hit subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments below. We are continuing precisely from where we left off on the previous episode here, having pushed back on 565 at Heathrow. We're going to depart a very wet, foggy London Heathrow up to Manchester today. We've done all our pre-taxi checks at the end of a previous episode. We're going to go taxi lights on. Quick check of the rest of the overhead panel, looks pretty good. We're going to go and release the parking brake. Little dab of the brakes. And engines 1 and 4 for me I'm going to use to start get us rolling forwards. So this is a massive aeroplane, and because of that it has its own taxi charts. And I'm going to show you Navigraph. So this is a specific A380 taxi chart for London Heathrow. There is also a similar one for Manchester, and anything green it can taxi on. Anything else is probably not going to fit. There's usually a bit of an information legend there for you. So green's available for A380. We've then also got the runway holding areas and ground reporting points. So we're going to taxi to full length 09 right. Not that we need it for this very short sector, but just want to get you guys in the habit of not using intersections in the A380. If you're flying from Heathrow to Los Angeles, for example, in the 380, then you want as much tarmac as you can get. And we're going to work down on Charlie. And then we'll take Alpha Link 52 to line up with November Bravo 11. So this is where charts are really important, because as you can see the OANS doesn't tell you that, so it's something you should know taxiing this thing around yourself. And it doesn't take much power. You can see there I've got what, 13.9% throttle, and one about 24% for the 380, just on engine 1 and 4 to get us rolling gently forwards. And once you are rolling forwards, you can kind of just leave it set like that. Slightly higher than an A320, for example, in the flight deck position. Slightly lower, though, by contrast to the 747. And as we commit to turns, we want to make sure that we are not going above 10 knots. Because otherwise the aeroplane's basically just going too quick for the turn. Much like the 777-300ER and these other big aeroplanes, if we keep the nose wheel on that yellow line and the main gear is just at the rear kind of bits of the wing, you can see how we're going to cut most of that corner off. So what we're going to do, that nose wheel's now on the line, we're going to keep it going. Little dab of the brakes just to slow us down, and now we start the turn. Takes a few seconds, replicating a tiller of an aircraft that's 300 odd tons in real life. And look, we're still slicing the corner a little bit, but it's a lot neater, a lot safer. You can see in the flight deck it looks like we've gone right over towards the edge, but actually this is pretty good. It's one of the kind of things you want to bear in mind with this aeroplane. Keep the power in a little bit. You can see I've left it around 22 to 24 on engine 1 and 4. Still engines 2 and 3 on idle. If you're heavier, you might want to just pop all 4, for example, onto about 20-24%. But they're not far above idle. And then gently rolling out. We're doing 4 knots ground speed. Centering that tiller, the nose wheel. Mine's linked to the rudder pedals because I don't have a separate tiller. And then we're just working down towards the runway. So it's taken a little while. We are being nice and slow. We've not really gone above 12 knots here on the taxi. Coming right up towards the link that we're going to be using for our lineup. So we're going to now bring the OANS off. We're going to increase that range mode selector back to 10. Make sure we're on arc. If we're on anything else, then arc's the one we want. Traffic can go on. We've already got constraints on. Press surveillance. TCAS TARA. Set it to however you want. Back to performance. Quick final checks. And a little dab of the brakes, because we're coming up on this quite quick. The old msfs click spot thing has never gone away, has it, since they introduced that around Sim Update 5. And as we start to line up, just going to do it now, we're going to pop strobes on. We're going to put wing lights on because that big thick old blanket of cloud. Landing lights, nose light to taxi. Currently the logo light isn't working, but you could put that on in some conditions if you wish. And a little dab of engine 1 and 4 for a bit more power to support the turn. Before I move the nose wheel tiller. And then following that round. The nose is going to come pretty much right off the edge of this taxiway here. Because it's a tight corner, that. You can see here how we're using almost the entirety of the width of the taxiway. Okie dokie, so C/L for checklists, lineup checks, tick. Takeoff runway both. Cabin crew, we would have advised, but we don't have the things that work. Packs 1 and 2 are on, checklist complete. They're already on, otherwise we would have the white light like so. And now just lining up on idle. Keeping it coming round. As we mentioned in episode 1, we're going to initially allow the managed mode to level off at 6,000 to support the constraint, but then we're going to intervene and request a further climb up to 180. We're not going to get the Mach conversion because we're not flying high enough today for this route. But it was something in the previous episode I wanted to mention because not all of you are going to do very short sectors. You might do 1 or 2 for a training flight like this, and then you might go far-flung. For example, Dubai to LA or Dubai Heathrow, or whatever it might be. So, we're getting the warnings for runway ahead on the PFD because we're already on one. Currently on the displaced threshold. We can start the takeoff roll from here, don't forget. We just can't land on this little section of runway. Takeoff memos, no blue. We've briefed for the departure. Just going to click across onto my charts to make sure they're in the correct mode. And we'll keep her rolling. So stick forward until about 80 knots, just to support the steering, the nose wheel. Going to make sure that nose wheel is now centered. And we're going to go set 50%. Engines are stable. 2 clicks. Flex, SRS, runway, power set, speeds alive, 80 knots already. Very light, we're going to accelerate rapidly. 100 knots, releasing the nose wheel pressure. And in the Alpha currently, sometimes, as you can see now, the nose wheel begins to lift. V1 rotates, just gently back folks, 3 degrees per second V2, keeping it coming. Look at the flight director, keep it chasing. Positive rate, gear up. We're away. About to zip under the cloud. Amazing animations on that thing. 1000. Autopilot 1 engaged. Lever climb. Just going to move the throttles back to the climb gate now. Through flaps S. Flaps up. Ground spoilers disarmed. Water brakes disarmed already. Nose light off. Runway turn off. Off. Keep the landing lights on a little bit longer. So you'll find this thing climbs absolutely rapidly. Certainly because we're so light as well. So what you can do is you can intervene with vertical speed mode. And you can ask it to just climb a little bit calmer if you want to. Coming up to 4000 now, if we were in managed mode, it would level off, but we're going to keep it going all the way to 180, which is our cruise for today. We'll do a little bit of cloud surfing. And because we've done the arrival data in the FMS prior to the departure being such a short route, we've actually reduced our workload already, which is really good. Transition altitude, go to standard pressure, make sure the standby instrument follows as well. We're just monitoring the aircraft. And you can see now it's gone to the climb mode on the FMS. We can increase the range ring and kind of look forwards further into our legs if we want to. And then through 10,000 EGLL we can pop those landing lights off as well. Wing lights can come off as well. And we're going through acceleration now to 290 knots. As we roll the wings level, we can pop the seatbelts off if we want to as well. Okay, so we're going to be upon Manchester pretty quick. We can have a little look into the arrival. We've got ELVOS flight level 200. We're at 180, so actually we're going to just remain at 180. It's a unique thing with this particular route. We're going to work through Trent, join top of descent, down to Dane at flight level 80, and then as we mentioned at the start, we'll be on the discontinuity then to self-vector around to the ILS approach runway 23 right. So with that in mind, we need to make sure that we've got the ILS frequency in the MCDU set correctly, and we make sure that we've got our minimums set as well. And we're going to go for category D. Ordinarily we're usually a lot faster, a lot heavier, so we'll go for Cat D, rad out 105, and we'll brief for the missed approach a little later on as well. We also need to put the weather in, so on Navigraph we've got the ability to get the weather in the charts program. We're going to go ahead and start to put the approach data in now. So we've got 160 at 4. Enter 4. Outside air temperature is 12. You can see there it's just calculated the crosswind component and then the headwind or tailwind and then the QNH 1032 into Manchester like so. We've got rad out, we mentioned a minute ago for the minimums. 105 is what we're going to choose. And the transition altitude 65. Full flap. If you wanted to do config 3, you could do so by selecting that. And that is that part of it all complete. Now, if you had to fly a hold, for whatever reason, we're going to now just sort of take Dane as an example. Max 230, flight level 80, there's a hold published there for if it's really busy. So what we can do is press down and we can find Dane, we can click it and then select hold. Inbound course is 311. Enter. We clear that. It's going to be a right turn. And we're going to define it by time. For a 1 minute leg. If you wanted a 2 minute leg, for example, then you can do that as well. So with that done, we can click temporary flight plan. If we scroll down, we should now see a hold at Dane, like so. We can insert that and we expand the flight plan. You can see the entry into the hold at Dane that's pre-calculated there, further up, just off the display. The next thing we need to do is select a kind of area to vacate. So this is where brake to vacate comes into play. Now, the first thing to do is have a look at the A380 approved charts. You can see, those of you flying into Manchester, quite often we vacate a Bravo Delta, don't we? But that is not approved for an A380, therefore we can't use it. So in that case, we either come off at Bravo, which is quite a sharp turn, we'd have to slow right down for that, or we go all the way down to Alpha Echo and we vacate there with a nice big wide area for us to turn in. So we're going to set that instead, and there it is on the main charts like so. So we can just mark a little arrow to remind us of where we're going to come off later, like that. Alpha Echo. So we're going to go to zoom, press down, EGCC, display airport. We get the please wait indication. And we can go to plan to actually activate the charts at Manchester. So this is now OANS at Manchester. We can zoom in and find Alpha Echo. Now, because we've already put in our arrival for the ILS 23 right, at the end of 23 right, at the head of it, look, we've got the arrow. So what we can do is we can click 23 right, and we now get, for brake to vacate, select exit. And we're going to scroll, click and drag and scroll all the way down to choose the exit we want to use. But there are two very important things that are now displayed. Dry, that magenta line there, and wet, which is that magenta line there. You should use a brake to vacate exit that is after the wet line, and Alpha Echo is the one that we just discussed. It is just after wet, which is great. We're even heavier, then we might have to actually use Alpha Golf, for example, or Alpha Foxtrot. But I'm going to go ahead and select Alpha Echo like so, and you can see that we've got now a blue line arming the brake to vacate functionality off at Alpha Echo like so. You've got runway 23 right, 2625 metres, 231 degrees on the display, exit Alpha Echo, which is 1,632 metres in. And it gives us a rate of turn and the turnaround times expected at the airfield as well. And that is it done. What we can now do is go back to arc, zoom back out to 10 to go back to where we are roughly. And prior to doppler descent, we must make sure the brake to vacate is armed, and you get there on the PFD, BTV in blue, ready to go. But we don't need it yet, just to show you how that happens. And that is it. Taxi takeoff, climb through to cruise, with a couple of added bonuses. Little chat about brake to vacate and holds in the flybywire simulation A380X for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Hit like, hit subscribe, share your thoughts and any tips and tricks down in the comments section below. And if you haven't yet checked out our virtual airline Osprey Airways, make sure you do. But in the meantime, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.